Mark Levin, the Fox News Israeli shill, is going on X, absolutely losing it over Thomas Massie. And he's going to be losing it a lot more on Monday when Thomas Massie speaks at Congress regarding the USS Liberty. So he goes on X and he says, Massie, who is a POS, who is a complete POS and Jew hater, is very upset about a post I made, which was tongue-in-cheek about his lunatic friend, Marjorie Taylor Greene. He uses some dumb way of naming her. He's right, and for now on, I will focus on him. And of course, there's a community note. So Thomas Massie responded to that, stating, sounds like you're bitter that I ratioed you and you had to delete your lying and dishonest tweet about my friend Marjorie Taylor Greene or face a lawsuit. Tune into C-SPAN on Monday to hear my speech honoring the Americans who were viciously attacked by Israel while serving on the USS Liberty. And this is regarding a post Thomas Massie made a couple of days ago. I'm actually really looking forward to it. He stated on June 8th, 2026, I'll speak on the floor of the House to honor and memorialize the brave crew of the USS Liberty who died and were wounded in an unprovoked attack by Israel on June 8th, 1967. Catch my speech on C-SPAN. And there's a screenshot here of Wikipedia, just summary. The USS Liberty was an attack on the United States Navy technical research ship, the USS Liberty, by Israeli Air Force jets, and it ended up killing 34 crew members and injuring 171 others. Both the Israeli and United States governments conducted inquiries that concluded the attack was a mistake due to mistaken Israeli confusion about the ship's identity, which we know is just absolutely blatantly false. There was actually something I bookmarked. I hope I bookmarked it, that I wanted to show you. I don't see it here, but let me go ahead and play this. This is actually Thomas Massie speaking to one of the survivors at the USS Liberty. It looks like in an elevator earlier yesterday.
But we were told never to talk about it, or we'd end up in prison or death.
Congressman Massie, thank you. Bless you, thank you.
And that was Phil Turney, actually. If you scroll through my profile, you'll see that I interviewed him. I think Candace Owens interviewed him about a year ago now. She interviewed him as well, and he was really talking about the USS Liberty. And, you know, the government worked really hard to cover that up. Keep in mind, and I think it's really important to know this, the USS Liberty, which Thomas Massie is going to be speaking about, that happened in 1967 when Lyndon B. Johnson was president, out of all people. It really couldn't have been anybody other than Lyndon B. Johnson being president, because of the fact that the 1967 war that Israel really started, the 1967 war would have never happened if John F. Kennedy was alive. It would have never happened if John F. Kennedy was alive, because he wouldn't have allowed it, and he wouldn't have armed Israel, and he wouldn't have allowed them to continue the war, because Israel would have never ended up in the situation that it was, because John F. Kennedy started pushing for Palestinians' right of return. Right before he died, there was a New York Times headline stated, U.S. stand angers Israel in the strongest terms, because of the fact that John F. Kennedy's administration put forward a UN resolution advocating for Palestinians' right of return. And the most important part out of all of this is Israel would have never had the courage to start the war had it not been for being nuclearized by 1967, which they wouldn't have been had John F. Kennedy not been assassinated, because he was trying to stop Israel's development of nuclear weapons. You see how everything really goes back to John F. Kennedy? This is why I bring him up so often, because everything really goes back to John F. Kennedy's administration. The occupation would have never happened if John F. Kennedy was alive. Israel would have never built the bomb. He would have gotten in the way of it. They were terrified about that. There would have been an actual resolution. Palestinians would have had the right of return. There would have already been peace at this point for decades now. Things would have already been settled, because he was trying to implement it. But of course, the Israelis, they couldn't have had that. They couldn't have had that. So things had to change. He was a major roadblock to them. And they end up getting the biggest Zionists of them all, which was Lyndon B. Johnson, up until Donald Trump, really. There was no more pro-Israel president than Lyndon B. Johnson up until Donald Trump. And Lyndon B. Johnson absolutely covered it up. He stated he's not going to embarrass his ally Israel. And that's well documented. So at this point, it's, so many years later, not bringing it up is really just a slap in the face. And all these survivors have been trying to do for decades now is literally just want Congress to recognize what was going on. So I think Phil Turney, or the USS Liberty Veterans Association, responded to Thomas Massie's statement here, stating, "To our knowledge, this will be the first time any member of Congress has ever spoken on the floor about the USS Liberty without excusing it as an error or an accident, as Senator Javits did when he spoke on the floor of the Senate before the blood on our decks was dry. We hope they will allow you to speak, but we'll be surprised if they do. And if they do, we hope they do not oppose you. If they do speak in opposition, we would appreciate the opportunity to provide you with some facts about the attack and the cover-up of the attack for your response. We think it only fair because members of Congress use lies fed to them by Israel sycophants and refuse to enter into a dialogue with USS Liberty survivors when confronted by those lies. One only has to look at the comments section made by Senator Don Bacon, a retired Air Force Brigadier General, to see an example of how members of Congress have treated USS Liberty survivors." So it's going to be pretty interesting. I think it's going to spark massive backlash, especially by more people like Mark Levin, absolutely just straight up, losing it on X and other places because of it. So I do want to go ahead and see if I can pull it up. Tucker Carlson, USS Liberty, he recently, I think, just did an interview, or it's just a small segment chatting about it. Here it is.
So I love when people today... Some poor American sailors on a surveillance ship, not lightly armed, not really armed.
No, it was a spy ship. Yeah. With massive American flags on the deck. We're a friendly ship. And the Israelis knew it. They had it in their control room on the wall. Friendly. They knew it. And the scout ships that were flying that morning knew it. So it's a lie that it was a mistake. It was not a mistake. We have the documents. We know that it wasn't a mistake. It was intentional.
But I didn't realize... I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to say it for some reason.
No, you can't say. Like, these are things that you're not allowed to talk about.
Right. You can criticize the U.S. government, but,
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I will say, it infuriates me that you can criticize your own government, but not a foreign government. That's so grotesque. On the other hand, you also give any foreign government a pass if it's acting in its own interest. It's like, they don't care about you.
And keep in mind, actually, a lot of people don't know this. I previously made a video on it. When the USS Liberty ended up getting attacked afterwards, there was a memorial. Actually, I think I might still have the video. There was a memorial for the USS Liberty, like a memorial, USS Liberty Memorial Library, and it was going to be named after the USS Liberty. I think, where was it? In Michigan? Let's see, here it is. And in 1987, a library was built in Wisconsin, actually, not Michigan. The library was named the USS Liberty Memorial Library, and it enraged the Jewish community, calling the library naming anti-Semitic. They called the library naming anti-Semitic. The ADL, along with the Milwaukee Jewish Council, pressured to have the name changed, but their efforts failed. And you can pull this up. This was an article from 2020. Grafton Library remains a complex symbol of hate and patriotism. That I'm not kidding. There's a sword. The whole article, you can pull it up. The article is still up in JewishChronicle.org, the Wisconsin Jewish Chronicle. They actually call it. They actually go ahead and call it an anti-Semitic library name. Israel reported it thought that the USS Liberty was Egyptian when it attacked the American vessel, which is straight up just a lie. And here's actually the part of it that I wanted to show you guys. Courting anti-Semitism. I'm not kidding. Because the library is being named it's courting anti-Semitism. Courting anti-Semitism in March 1988, the rabbi of a synagogue said the name felt like an insult to the Jewish community. I don't know what the motives are. If somebody made an offer of all kinds of funds and the stipulation would be that they rename it Hiroshima, I wouldn't think it would be in the best interest of the institution, especially a public institution. I don't see any way of approaching this other than to speak toward its morality and underlying attitude. It is a matter of insult that can be directed at the Jewish community and at those who support the state of Israel. What? But it wasn't just the leader of a village's closest synagogue that was troubled by the name. Soon the Milwaukee Jewish Council was sending letters to then Grafton Village president voicing its concern. The story gained such widespread attention that even the New York Times and Chicago Tribune ran stories about the dispute. Local newspapers covering the story soon began receiving letters on the issue from across the country. Few residents spoke out against the name themselves, but there was a small petition drive aimed at having the name changed. The Grafton Education Association withdrew its commitment to raise $10,000 for the library because of the name selection. That is insane. Reacting to Rabbi's comments, Grob said, "I think people have no business to have a reaction like that if they are patriotic Americans." It was a major cover-up because they tried to sink the ship, Grob said, referencing the naval officer's account. So, you know, and the article goes on and on. This was an article written in 2020, which I find pretty interesting, that an article would write about this in 2020. The USS Liberty Memorial Public Libraries in Grafton, a plaque in front of the library memorialized those who died in the incident. And it still set them off, the naming of it. It's considered anti-Semitic. I mean, what more, guys? What more do you need? I mean, if that, you know... What else are we supposed to? What are they supposed to do at this point? And now they literally just want Congress to hear them and recognize what happened. And watch just what's going to happen on Monday. It's going to get, you know, massive blowback. I already see it kind of coming. So I look forward to seeing the backlash. Laura Loomer, Mark Levin, all of them. They're just going to absolutely lose it. Ted Cruz is going to call it anti-Semitic. Just wait and see. He's going to call the whole thing anti-Semitic. So. Anyways, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you found it interesting. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you just go ahead and click the subscribe button below and give it a thumbs up as well. It helps me reach more people like you. Also, if you haven't yet, definitely join as a member. If you see people in the comments with all those fun emojis, the JFK emoji and the censored emoji and all the other emojis too, you can use those emojis if you join as a member. So if you click the join button below next to the subscribe button, you can use those emojis too and get to see member-only videos I do pretty often on here. I'll add a USS Liberty icon in the emoji section as well, so you guys can use that. Hope you guys found this video interesting, and I will talk to you all again soon. Bye, everybody.